distance. Oh dear, how hard it how hard it does seem to take up our backs and jog on, sighed Meg, the morning after the party, for now the holidays were over. The week of merry-making did not fit her for going on easily with a task she never liked. I wish it was Christmas or New Year's all the time. Wouldn't it be fun? Answered Joe, yawning dismally. Dismally, I think. We shouldn't enjoy ourselves half so much as we do now, but it does seem so nice to have little suppers and bouquets and go to and drive home in a carriage and read and rest and not work. It is like other people, and I always envy girls who do such things. I'm so fond of luxury, said Meg, trying to decide which of two shabby gowns was the least shabby. Well, we can't have it, so don't let us grumble, but shoulder our bundles and drudge along as cheerfully as Mummy does. I'm sure Aunt March is a regular old man of the sea to me, but I suppose when I've learned so to carry her without complaining, she will tumble off or get so light that I shan't mind her. All right. This idea tickled Joe's fancy and put her in good spirits, but Meg didn't brighten, for her burden, consisting of 4 spoiled children, seemed heavier than ever. She hadn't heart enough enough even to make herself pretty as usual by putting on a blue neck ribbon and dressing her hair in the most becoming way. What is the use of looking nice when no one sees me but those cross midgets, and no one cares whether I'm pretty or not, she muttered, shutting her drawer with a jerk. I shall have to toil and moil all my days with only little bits of fun now and then, and get old and ugly and sour because I'm poor and can't enjoy my life as other girls do. It is a shame. So Meg went down wearing an injured look and wasn't at all agreeable at breakfast time. Everyone seemed rather out of sorts and inclined to croak. Beth had a headache and lay on the sofa trying to comfort herself with the cat and 3 kittens. Amy was fretting because her lessons were not learned and she couldn't find her rubbers, so Joe would whistle and make a great racket getting ready. Mrs. March was very busy trying to finish a letter which must go at once, and Hannah had the grumps for being up late didn't suit her. There never was such a gross family, cried Jo, losing her temper when she had upset an inkstand, broken both boot lacings, and sat down upon her hat. Let me highlight this one, and I would say this one too. You're the grossest person in it, returned Amy, washing out the sum. That was all wrong with the tears that had fallen on her slate. Ah, another one. Beth, if you don't keep these horrid cats down cellar, I'll have them drowned, exclaimed Meg angrily as she tried to get rid of the kitten, which had scrambled up her back and stuck like a burr just out of reach. Jo laughed. Meg scolded. Beth implored, and Amy wailed because she couldn't remember how much 9 times 12 was. Girls, girls, do be quiet. 1 minute, I must get this off by the early mail. And you drive me distracted with your worry, cried Mrs. March, crossing out the third spoiled sentence in her letter. There was a momentary lull, broken by Hannah, who bounced in, laid 2 hot turnovers on the table, and bounced out again. These turnovers were an institution, and the girls called them muffs, for they had no others, and found the hot pies very comforting to their hands on cold mornings. Hannah never forgot to make them, no matter how busy or grumpy she might be, for the walk was long and bleak. The poor things got no other lunch, and were seldom home before 3. Cuddle your cats and get over your headache, Bethy. Goodbye, Mommy. We are a set of rascals. All right, this one. Rascals this morning, but we'll come home regular angels. Regular angels. Now then Meg and Joe trumped away, feeling that the pilgrims were not setting out as they ought to do. Right? They always looked back before turning the corner, for their mother was always at the window to nod and smile and wave her hand to them. Somehow it seemed as if they couldn't have got through the day without that. For whatever the mood might be, the last glimpse of that motherly face was sure to affect them like sunshine. If Mommy shook her fist instead of kissing her hand to us, it would serve us right for more ungrateful wretches than we were never seen, cried Joe, taking a remorseful satisfaction in the snowy walk and bitter wind. Don't use such dreadful expressions, said Meg, from the depths of the evil of the pail in which she had shrouded herself like a nun sick of the world. I like good strong words that mean something, replied Joe, catching her hat as it took a leap off her head. Preparatory to flying away altogether. Call yourself any names you like, but I am neither a rascal nor a witch, and I don't choose to be called so. You are a blighted being, and decidedly cross today because you can't sit in lap of luxury all the time. Poor dear, just wait till I make my fortune, and you shall revel in carriages and ice cream and high-heeled slippers and posies and red-headed boys to chat with. How ridiculous you are, Joe. But Meg laughed at the nonsense and felt better in spite of herself. Lucky for you I am, for if I put on crushed airs and tried to be dismal, as you do, we should be in a nice state. Thank goodness I can always find something funny to keep me up. Don't croak any more, but come home jolly, there's a dear. Jo gave her sister an encouraging pat on the shoulder as they parted for the day, each going a different way, each hugging her little warm turnover, and each trying to be cheerful in spite of wintry weather, hard work, and the unsatisfied desires of pleasure-loving youth. When Mr. March lost his property in trying to help an unfortunate friend, the 2 oldest girls begged to be allowed to do something toward their own support at least, believing that they could not begin too early to cultivate energy, industry, and independence. Their parents consented, and both fell to work with a hearty goodwill which, in spite of all obstacles, is sure to succeed at last. Margaret found a place as nursery governess, and felt rich with her small salary. As she said, she was fond of luxury, and her chief trouble was poverty. She found it harder to bear than the others, because she could remember a time when home was beautiful, life full of ease and pleasure, and want of any kind unknown. She tried not to be envious or discontented. It was very natural that the young girl should long for pretty things, friends, accomplishments, and a happy life. At the King's she daily saw all she wanted, for the children's older sisters was just out, and Meg caught frequent glimpses of dainty party dresses and bouquets, heard lively gossip about theatres, concerts, sleighing, I think, to know, highlighted, sleighing, parties, and merrymakings of all kinds, and saw money lavished on trifles which would have been so precious to her. Poor Meg seldom complained, but a sense of injustice made her feel bitter toward everyone sometimes, for she had not yet learned to know how rich she was in blessings which all alone can make life happy. Jo happened to suit Aunt March, who was lame and needed an active person to wait upon her. The childless old lady had offered to adopt one of the girls when the troubles came, and was much offended because her offer was declined. Other friends told the Marches that they had lost all chance of being remembered in the rich old lady's will. But the unworldly Marches only said, "We can't give up our girls for a dozen fortunes. Rich or poor, we will keep together and be happy in one another." The old lady wouldn't speak to them for a time, but happening to meet Jo at a friend's, something in her comical face and blunt manners struck the old lady's fancy, and she proposed to take her for a companion. This did not suit Jo at all, but she accepted the place since nothing better appeared, and, to everyone's surprise, got on remarkably well with her irascible, alright, highlight this one, irascible relative. There was an occasional tempest, oh my word, and once Jo had marched home declaring she couldn't bear it any longer. But Aunt March always cleared up quickly and sent for her back again with such urgency that she could not refuse, for in her heart she rather liked the peppery old lady. 40 minutes, right? I suspect that the real attraction was a large library of fine books which was left to dust and spiders since Uncle March died. Jo remembered the kind old gentleman who used to let her build railroads and bridges with his big dictionaries, tell her stories about the funny pictures in his Latin books, and buy her cards of gingerbread whenever he met her in the street. The dim, dusty room with the busts staring down from the tall bookcases, the cozy chairs, the globes, and best of all, the wildness of books, in which she could wander where she liked, made the library a region of bliss to her. The moment Aunt March took her nap or was busy with company, Jo hurried to this quiet place and, curling herself up in the easy chair, devoured poetry, romance, history, travels, and pictures like a regular bookworm. But like all happiness, it did not last long, for as sure as she had just reached the heart of the story, the sweetest verse of the song of the most per- perilous, let me highlight this one, perilous adventure of her traveller, a shrill voice called Juicy Shine, Josephine, Josephine, Juicy Fine, and she had to leave her paradise to wind yarn, wash the puddle, or read Blecham's essays by the hour together. Jo's ambition was to do something very splendid. What it was she had no idea as yet, but left it for time to tell her, and meanwhile found her greatest application. Application. Application in the fact that she couldn't read, run, and ride as much as she liked. A quick temper, sharp tongue, and restless spirit were always getting her into scrapes, and her life was a series of ups and downs, which were both comic and pathetic. But the training she received at Aunt March's was just what she needed, and the thought that she was doing something to support herself made her happy, in spite of the perpetual juicy fine. Beth was too bashful to go to school. It had been tried, but she suffered so much that it was giving up, and she did her lessons at home with her father, even when he went away, and her mother was called to devote her skill and energy to soldiers. Aid aid societies. Beth went faithfully on by herself and did the best she could. She was a housewifely little creature and helped Hannah keep home neat and comfortable for the workers, never thinking of any reward but to be loved. Long, quiet days she spent, not lonely nor ideal, for her little world was peopled with imaginary friends, and she was by nature a busy bee. There were 6 dolls to be taken up and dressed every morning, for Beth was a child still, and loved her pets as well as ever. Not one whole or handsome one among them. All were outcasts till Beth took them in, for when her sisters outgrew these idols, they passed to her, because Amy would have nothing old or ugly. Beth cherished them all the more tenderly for that very reason, and set up a hospital for infirm dolls. No pins were ever stuck into their cotton vitals, no harsh words or blows were ever given them, no neglect ever saddened the heart of the most repulsive, but all were fed and clothed, nursed and cast, with an affection which never failed. One fragment of dolenity, what is this word? Dolenity had belonged to Jo, and having led a tempestuous life, was left a a wreck in the cu- in the wow in the rag bag from which dreary poorhouse it was rescued by Beth, and taking to her refuge, having no top to its head, she tied she tied on a neat little gap, and as both arms and legs were gone, she did these def- def- deficiencies by folding it in a blanket and devoting her best bed to this chronic invalid. If anyone had known the care lavished on that dolly, I think it would have touched their hearts, even while they laughed. She brought it bits of brocades. She read to it, took it out to breathe the air, hidden under her coat. She sang it lullabies and never went to bed without kissing its dirty face and whispering tenderly, I hope you'll have a good night, my poor dear. Beth had her troubles as well as the others, and not being an angel, but a very human little girl, she often wept a little weep, as Joe said, because she couldn't take music lessons and have a fine piano. She loved music so dearly, tried tried so hard to learn, and practiced away so patiently at this jingling old instrument that it did seem as if someone, not to hint Aunt March, ought to help her. Nobody did, however, and nobody saw Beth wipe the tears of the yellow keys that wouldn't keep in tune when she was all alone. She sang like a little lark about her work, never was too tired to play for mommy, and the girls, and day after day said hopefully to herself, I know I'll get my music sometime if I'm good. There are many Beths in the world, shy and quiet, sitting in corners till needed, and living for others so cheerfully that no one sees the sacrifices till the little cricket on the hearth or hearth, I don't know, another hearth stoops chirping, and the sweet sunshiny presence vanishes, leaving silence and shadow behind. Right? If anybody had asked Amy what the greatest trial of her life was, she would have answered at once, my nose. When she was a baby, Joe had accidentally dropped her into the coal hood, and Amy insisted that the fall had ruined her nose forever. It was not big nor red like poor Petria's. What is this? It was only rather flat, and all the pinching in the world could not give it any aristocratic point. No one minded it but herself, and it was doing its best to grow. But Amy felt deeply the want of a Grecian. What's this one? Grecian nose, and drew whole sheets of handsome ones to console herself. Little Raphael, as her sisters called her, had a decided talent for drawing, and was never so happy as when copying flowers, designing fairies, 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 or illustrating stories with funny specimens of art. Her teachers complained that instead of doing her sums, she covered her slate with animals. She blank pages of her atlas were used to copy maps on, and caricatures, what's this word? Caricatures of the most ludicrous description came fluttering out of all her books at unlucky moments. She got through her lessons as well as she could and managed to escape reprimands by being a model of deportment. Alright, this one too. Deportment. She was a great favorite with her mates, being good tempered and possessing the happy art of pleasing without effort. Her little airs and graces were much admired, so were her accomplishments. For, for besides her drawing, she could play 12 tunes, crochet, and read French without mispronouncing more than 2/3 of the words. She had a plaintive way of saying, "When Papa was rich, we did so and so," which was very touching, and her long words were considered perfectly elegant by the girls. Amy was in a fair way to be spoiled, for everyone petted her, and her small vanities and selfishness were growing nicely. One thing, however, rather quenched the vanities. Let me highlight this. She had to wear her cousin's clothes. No, Florence's mamma hadn't a particle of taste, and Amy suffered deeply at having to wear a red instead of a blue bonnet, unbecoming gowns, and fussy aprons that did not fit. Everything was good, well made, and little worn, but Amy's artistic eyes were much afflicted, especially with this winter, when her school dress was a dull purple with yellow dots and no trimming. "My only comfort," she said to Meg, with tears in her eyes, is that mother doesn't take tucks in my dresses whenever I'm naughty, as Maria Parks's mother does. My dear, it is really dreadful, for sometimes she is so bad. Her frock is up to her knees, and she can't come to school. When I think of this degradation, what a word! Degradation, I feel that I can bear even my flat nose and purple gown with yellow skyrockets on it. Meg was Amy's confident, I think it's confident, and monitor, and by some strange attraction of opposites, she was gentle Beth's. To Jo alone did the shy child tell her thoughts, and over her big scarum. Sister Beth unconsciously exercised more influence than anyone in the family. The two elder girls were a great deal to one another, but each took one of the younger into her keeping and watched over her in her own way. Playing mother, they called it, and put their sisters in the places of discarded dolls with the maternal instincts of little women. Let me see. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop after this one. Has anybody got anything to tell? It's been such a dismal day. I'm really dying for some amusement, said Meg. Let me highlight this one and copy it because I need it. I'm really dying for some amusement, said Meg, as they sat sewing together that evening. I had a funny time with Aunt today, and as I got the best of it, I'll tell you about it, began Jo, who dearly loved to tell stories. I was reading that everlasting Blesham, and droning away as I always do, for Aunt soon drops off, and then I take out some nice book and read like fairy till she wakes up. I actually made myself sleepy and before she began to nod, I gave such a gape that she asked me what I meant by opening my mouth wide enough to take the whole book in at once. I think I need this one too. Alright. How many? 30 minutes. Unbelievable. I wish I could and be done with it, said I, trying not to be so saucy. Then she gave me a long lecture on my sins and told me to sit and think them over while she just lost herself for a moment. She never finds herself very soon, so the minute her gap began to bob like a top-heavy dahliya. What is this dahliya? I wiped the vicar of Wakefield out of my pocket and read away, with one eye on him and one on Aunt. I just got to where they all tumbled into the water when I forgot and laughed out loud. Aunt woke up and, being more good-natured after her nap, told me to read a bit and show what very free filthus. Oh wow. Need this word too. Free filthus work I preferred to the worthy and instructive Felsham. I did my very best and she liked it, though she only said, I don't understand what it's all about. Go back and begin it, child. Back I went and made the primroses, and as interesting as ever I could. Once I was weak enough to stop in a thrilling place and say meekly, I'm afraid it tires you, ma'am. It tires you, ma'am. Shan't I stop now? She caught up her knitting, which had dropped out of her hands, gave me a sharp look through her specs, and said in her short way, finish the chapter and don't be impotent, miss. Did she own she liked it? Asked Meg. Alright, I'm not gonna read this for today. That's it. 30 minutes is